Hi everyone, and welcome to Dala's Creative TV channel. My name is Veronica Olivier and I am a mixed media artist. And welcome to my studio. It's no secret that I build the backgrounds for my paintings with layers and layers of collage papers and rich textures. I often use tools to create these textures on my paintings. But mark making tools is not always available in the shops. But I don't let that stop me. I just make my own. In nature alone, there are so many different things that you can use, like twigs and leaves and stones and even sand to create textures and marks on your paintings. So in today's lesson, I am going to show you how to make a few mark making tools with Dala's products. I am going to go through my bits and pieces drawer and see what I can find. Sometimes you can buy mark making tools. I found these in a craft shop when I was on holiday in the kiddies craft section. And they work very well, but if you don't have any, you can always make your own. So today we're going to use raffia, pipe cleaners and some of the wire stems from the craft bits and pieces section. I found some off-cut dowel sticks in my garage. I have inside of a toilet roll and a square block that came from a pallet that I took apart. I don't throw anything away. So for our first brush, I am going to use the metallic pipe cleaners. They are not as soft as the ordinary pipe cleaners and they've got like a rough texture to it. So I'm curious to see the marks that this will make. So I simply bent the pipe cleaner to form or to make hoops, and I'm going to attach it to the dowel stick to make a brush. And I have used 4 of the metallic pipe cleaners to make this tool. Now I'm simply going to attach it to the dowel stick with the wire. I just happen to have metallic wire, but you can use any of the wire. And then we will have a mark making tool. If you rinse it off immediately after you've used it, it is good to go for a couple of paintings before you have to replace the pipe cleaners. For our second tool, we are going to do exactly the same but just with raffia. I'm simply going to take a whole handful and tie it to the dowel stick to make a paintbrush. It looks like a tiny grass broom, and I'm simply going to cut it straight, and then we have a mark making paintbrush. Because the raffia is quite coarse and stiff, it is going to create interesting textures on the painting. For our third tool, we are still going to use some of the raffia with a wooden block to make our own stamp. And because the block has got 8 sides, we will have 8 different interesting line stamps to use on our project. tool is so easy to make because we're simply going to wrap some of the pipe cleaners around the toilet roll. And to keep it in place, I'm simply going to make a little twist at the end. Now look at that. I think this will make interesting lines on the background for a painting. So to try out some of our tools, I'm going to use some of Dala's acrylic ink, and I have a watercolor pad, and I am just going to play with this to see what kind of marks or patterns this will create if I use it on one of the backgrounds of my paintings. The new Dala acrylic inks comes with a nozzle which makes it easier to work with. But let us continue and start playing with our mark making tools. I will use the raffia brush first to see what I can create and the textures and the lines it will produce when I paint on my backgrounds. I quite like it because the raffia is quite stiff, and you can really press down on the brush and just twist and turn or splatter to create interesting effects on a mixed media background. I would suggest, if you use this with paint, to just dilute the paint a little bit so that it has the same consistency as the ink. Now look at this, interesting. So let's move on to the metallic pipe cleaner brush. I am simply going to twist it, drag it, splatter, and just be creative to see. Now with the block stamp, I'm going to use some of Dala's acrylic paint. And I'm going to show you a little trick to make your own stamp pad with acrylic paint. I simply had Deng's sponge cut into pieces, and I'm going to put the acrylic paint on the piece of sponge and use it as a stamp pad. I take a palette knife and I just put a thin layer of the acrylic paint on the top of the sponge, making sure that it is just soaked up by the sponge. And then you simply use it like you would use any ordinary stamp and stamp pad. Mark making is also a very creative way for toddlers and children to express themselves. So just look at that, interesting patterns that you can use in your project or on a mixed media background with simple things that you can find in your house or in your art studio. I just have to make a few more stamps to see the effects. I love this and will definitely use it in my art. So let's see if the toilet roll and the pipe cleaners will give us beautiful marks and patterns like the raffia did. I'm just making sure that I have enough paint on the pipe cleaners before I roll it. And yes, the pattern and the mark is quite interesting and I love it. So I'm going to see what happens if I try to drag it like a brush. It's not working all that well, but still interesting marks on the page. And you can also use the side of this tool to stamp circles on your background. The thing with mark making and using mark making tools is that you can never predict the outcome until you make it and you try it. It is perfect for abstract art, but like I said, I use it in my mixed media backgrounds. Dala has all sorts of interesting things in their bits and pieces section that you can use to make mark making tools. From raffia to pipe cleaners, feathers and sizzle, whatever you want, they have it. So I hope you enjoyed this week's lesson in how to make and use mark making tools, and I will see you next week. If you would like to know more about me and my art and what I'm up to every day, you are welcome to follow me on any of my social media networks or on my website. I'm a multidisciplinary artist that mainly work with textiles, and I do textile sculpting, I paint with textiles, and I also do a bit of clay sculpting, paper mache and acrylic portrait studies. So until next week, enjoy the lesson and enjoy your weekend.